Pastor Kyle, and we want to welcome you. We're so glad that you're here. This week was a very special week for our church. Actually, 4 years ago, on January 10th, 2016, we met right here in this very building, and we had our very first service at Mission Church. So this week we turned 4 years old. Is that cool or what, right? That's pretty cool. And we're going to throw a huge party to celebrate, and it's coming up on February the 2nd, and we're going to blow the doors out and have a great time and just make it super festive and celebrate everything that God's done the last 4 years and what we're looking forward to in the year 2020 and in the next decade. So it's going to be super exciting. I heard there's like some other parties or big game or something that day. I don't know what, but like we want you to be here first and celebrate with us on that day. It's going to be super cool. So we're starting a brand new series today, and it's all about how to be an influencer. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. You're like, okay, Pastor, you've been on the YouTube too much. You've been on the Instagram or whatever. Like, we're actually going to talk not just about how to influence people to buy products or things like that, but how to influence people for Jesus Christ in this world. And so I'm excited as we jump into that topic. I want to start with a story from when I was in the 3rd grade. So this goes back a little ways, but when I was in the 3rd grade, I remember it was my birthday party, right? And I was so excited because all my friends were invited to my birthday party, and my mom rented out the roller skating rink. Now, we don't have, a lot of roller skating rinks around anymore, but I still get fired up. I mean, a year or so ago, we went to this thing at like the skate zone or whatever it's called, and I mean, it just brought back all the memories from being a kid and skating around the roller skating rink. And so we're at the roller skating rink, me and all my friends, and we're having this big party. And I remember that we stopped roller skating and we went over to the snack bar area, and we're all sitting there at the snack bar, and we're eating cake and ice cream, and we're opening all the presents and stuff, and we're just kind of hanging out and having a really good time. And then suddenly this song comes on the loudspeakers, and everyone stopped and looked at each other, and then immediately got up and went to the skating rink and started skating as fast as they could, right? The song was Michael Jackson, Beat It, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like those chimes that started off, it's like, dum, dum, and as soon as that started, everybody literally just froze and looked at each other and was like, whoa, we gotta go. And they went out to the floor, and we were getting into it, it's like, beat it, da-da-da, it's like really getting into it, and I mean, everybody was having an amazing time. And what I remember about that was this. Michael Jackson did not come to my birthday party, but Michael Jackson had an influence in that moment, at that party, over all those little 3rd grade kids, because in that moment, something magical happened. I remember this all these years later, when all of us that song triggered something, and no one said anything. We just jumped up, and we knew what we had to do. We had to get out there and skate with everything in us. And it was like Michael Jackson influenced that moment. Now, you might be thinking this morning, I am not Michael Jackson, like, for those of you kids, I mean, just Google it, right? Michael Jackson was the stuff, all right, when I was a kid. Like, this was big time, big stuff. And so here's the thing. You might be thinking this morning, I'm not Michael Jackson. I don't have a big platform. I don't have a lot of friends on social media, right? I don't have a lot of influence. How in the world would God use someone like me to be a person of influence in this world? Like, I'm not like a famous person, like a movie star, like a sports figure, like someone who has all these followers on YouTube or social media. That's not me. How can I have influence? Well, one of the things that I want us to learn from the very beginning of this series is that everyone has influence. Everyone has influence. If you're taking notes this morning on the church app or maybe on the handout you got when you walked in, that's going to be your first fill-in this morning. Everyone has influence. That means you, this morning, if you're listening to this, if you're watching online, I want you to know you have influence. God has given you a platform, right? You have a platform at your job. You have a platform in your family, right? Husbands, you have a platform with your wives. Wives, you have a platform with your husbands. You know, you have a platform, moms and dads, with your kids. Young people, students, you have a platform in your classroom. You have a platform on your cheerleading squad, in your band. You have a platform wherever you go, in your neighborhood where you live. God has given you a platform. And yes, some of you might not have hundreds of thousands of social media followers, but guess what? God has given you a platform, even online. I did some research this week on the Google, and I punched in, what is the average number of followers that the average person has on Instagram? And did you know the average person on Instagram, even the old moms who were just on there kind of scoping their kids, they have 150 followers, right? And so my guess is that many of you in this room have 2, 3, 4, 500 or more followers, and I think Facebook is even higher. Right? And the reality is that when you post something on your social media, you have an immediate opportunity to impact hundreds of people. And I want you to think about for just a second that with all of us in this room, how much our combined influence can be. I mean, with each one of us, what kind of influence has God given us? You see, the reality is all of us have influence. The issue is not whether or not I have influence. The issue is, do I choose to use the influence that I have? Am I leaning in to the influence that God has given me? That is the question. You see, the reality is that you are never not influencing. All of us are influencers. All of us, all the time, you are influencing the decisions you make, the things that you say, the clothes that you wear. All of the things that you do are influencing people around you because everyone has influence. And so the question is not, do I have influence? The question is, are you leaning in to your influence? Are you leaning in to the influence that God has given to you? See, here's what I believe. I believe that God has designed each one of us to be influencers. God created you in such a way that you are uniquely fit to be an influencer. And I believe that. I want to share with you a couple of verses this morning that talk about this. I want to tell you the way that God has created you. Listen to Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 10. It says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." I want you to hear this morning. You are a masterpiece of God. You are made and created by a God who loves you. And you know what? You are unique. There is no one else in the world who is like you. No one who has your same DNA. No one who has your same fingerprints. You are unique. And you have a unique voice and a unique purpose. Did you hear it in the verse? Did you catch what it says in the passage? It says that God prepared beforehand good works for you to walk in them. God has a purpose and a plan for your life. He created you for a reason. He created you with purpose and intentionality. God did not design you just to float through life without any impact. God designed you on purpose for a reason. Listen to what the psalmist writes in Psalm 139. I love this. It says, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." Isn't that powerful? I mean, it's saying God created you, and before you were even born, God knew the days of your life. He knew the steps of your life. He knew the purpose for your life. You see, you were created on purpose for a purpose. God has a specific purpose for your life. And your purpose is not just to be here on this earth and enjoy it while you can and get all you can and just live your best life now. Your purpose is not, you only live once, like all the messages of our culture. No, that's a lie, right? Your purpose is not about you. Your purpose is about giving yourself away, right? Over and over, the scripture tells us that we have a purpose. We're designed to be influencers. We're designed to be in our world, in our culture, being who God created us to be, making an impact that only you can make, right? Because only you are made the way that God made you. You alone can have a unique impact. And so listen, you might not be a famous movie star. You might not be a famous singer. You may not have all of these followers on Instagram. You might not have all of those things, but guess what? God created you with purpose and intentionality. And He made you to make a difference in this world because of who you are. And no one else can live out your purpose. Only you can live out the purpose that God has created you to walk in. And so I want to challenge us this series that we're talking about. Not only has God created us to be influencers, but God has called us to use that influence in the world around us. God hasn't called us to just sit back and enjoy life. No, we have a purpose. We have a reason for living. Listen to Matthew chapter 5. This is the words of Jesus. I want you to hear what He says about how we're called to be influencers. Jesus said this, "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand so that it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who's in heaven." See, Jesus uses these two pictures, these two illustrations, right? Jesus was a master teacher. And He uses these two illustrations to say that I have a purpose for you in your life. See, there's a reason when we trust in Jesus and we become saved and we get eternal life and all that we don't just go to heaven right away. No, there's a reason we stay here on earth. It's because God wants to use us to fulfill our purpose. And I love this image that He uses, right? I mean, can you imagine a world, just think about it for a second. Just imagine what French fries would taste like with no salt. I mean, that's nasty, right? That's like repulsive. It's gross. It's like, what are you talking about? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Or have you ever maybe made the mistake when you went to the grocery store and you were going to buy some popcorn and you didn't realize that there's 14 different varieties of popcorn when you were buying it, and so you accidentally made it home with the box that says no butter, no salt? I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but when you make that popcorn, I mean, it tastes like cardboard, right? I mean, basically popcorn is like cardboard until you put on the good butter and salt that makes it taste really good, right? I mean, that's what makes the popcorn good. That's what makes it worth eating. And Jesus says, just like that, you have a purpose in this world. You are the butter and the salt on the popcorn. You are what makes life have zest. You are what gives flavor. You are what brings life to this dark, bland, boring, cardboard world. You are the one that adds that spice of life. And think about light, right? Jesus says, you're the light of the world. I mean, Jesus is saying something here. It's like, what does light do? Light literally penetrates darkness. Light chases away darkness. It's the coolest thing. I mean, light illuminates things. It brings things to light that we didn't see beforehand. It changes our perspective, right? I mean, light is so powerful. And Jesus says that's how you are. You're supposed to be like light in a dark world, bringing illumination, bringing life, exposing people to things that they've never seen or heard or thought of before. You are the light of the world. And I thought about this passage a little bit. I thought about, at home we have a salt shaker and it sits on the kitchen counter. And it does no good in the salt shaker, right? It's doing its purpose until you take the salt shaker and you put it on your food, and then you can experience it, right? You have to get the salt out of the salt shaker and onto the plate for it to make any impact. In the same way, Jesus in this passage says, hey, no one lights a light and then puts it under a bushel, covers it up so that no one can see. I mean, the whole purpose is that you want to see the light. You want to expose the light to everyone who can watch. You want everyone to see and experience that bright light so that it can change their world. Right? And this is what Jesus is saying. You have to get out and be the salt and light in the world. You have to be the ones who are bold, right? You can't hide. You can't sit back. You have to be willing to get out of the salt shaker and into the world. You have to be willing to take the cover off and let your light shine. You have to be willing to be used by God. You see, Jesus said, I want you to shine. I want you to be the salt and the light of the earth. I don't want you to hide back. I don't want you to pretend that you have nothing to offer this world. I don't want you to cower, right, in fear. I don't want you to think that you have no influence. Jesus says you are the flavor of the world. You're the light of the world. I want you to bring your influence to this world. Now, you might be saying this morning, hey, Pastor, you don't really know me. I mean, I'm kind of one of those quiet people, like, I'm kind of an introvert. I mean, I just like to hang back, I don't want to draw any attention to myself. I mean, I'm not one of those, like, flashy light people kind of things. I'm not, like, trying to be the center of attention, I'm just not really out there that much. I mean, my personality is more, like, reserved, and I just want to hang back. And like, I'm not anything special anyways. I mean, I don't really have that special of a light to shine. I don't really have, that loud of a voice. And so I don't know that I can really relate to what you're talking about. But I want to tell you something this morning. I think it's going to be an encouragement to you. And that is this. God is in the habit of using ordinary people to do extraordinary things. God uses ordinary things, ordinary people, normal, everyday people, to do big things, mind-blowing things, God-sized things, all the time. Right? I love this. Like, if you read the Bible, I mean, if you go back and you read some of the stories and the characters in the Bible, I mean, one of my favorite things to do is see when God takes someone that you would never expect. God takes someone who's not the most talented person, not the smartest person, not the prettiest person, not the person who has it all together. God uses ordinary people, normal people. Man, this gives me hope, right? Because I don't know about you and how you're feeling about your life and how your self-confidence is and all that stuff, but there's some days when I feel pretty average. There's some days when I feel pretty normal. In fact, there's some days when I feel less than that. There's some days when I feel broke down. Some days when I feel like, God, how could you ever use someone like me with the things that I've done, the people that I've hurt, the things that I've said? How could you use someone like me? I don't have the talent. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not a powerful enough speaker. I'm not this. I'm not that. And you know what? We can add up all the things that we're not, but that means nothing to God. Nothing to God. I mean, think about it. In the Bible, you remember this guy named David? He was a shepherd. He sat out in a field with a flock of sheep. Like, that was his job. That was his life. He was an outcast from society. He had nothing. And you know what God did? God said, I see not a shepherd boy. I see a king. And I'm going to raise up this king to lead a whole nation of people. I'm going to raise up this king to do extraordinary and amazing things through this shepherd boy. Right? I love the story of Peter. Right? Peter was one of the disciples of Jesus. And you remember when Jesus found him, what he was doing? He was a fisherman. I mean, just think about it. Fishermen were rough around the edges. They were dirty. They smelled like rotten fish. They worked all night. I mean, Peter was a mess when Jesus found him. Peter had no education. Peter wasn't good looking. He wasn't on the cover of GQ magazine, with like some nice stubble and like windblown hair and like a cool toga and stuff. I mean, Peter's like this nasty boy on the beach that you tell your kids to stay away from. Right? That's who Peter was. And Jesus is like, hey, you know what? I can take that. I can use that. I can work with this. And Jesus transformed this guy, and Peter became the leader of the whole church. I mean, just think about that. So don't tell me this morning that you're too normal. Don't tell me that you're too average. Don't tell me that you're not pretty enough, that you're not athletic enough. Don't tell me that you don't have enough followers on Instagram. Don't tell me that you don't have a platform or whatever excuse it is, because I want you to hear this. God made you to be an influence in our world. God made you to shine your light bright in our culture. God made you to have an impact, to have an influence. You know, I thought about that this week too, and I was thinking, you know, there was a day in time. There was a day in time in our history when the church led the charge when it came to influence in culture. The church was the one who was out on the forefront. The church had the best artists. The church had the best authors and teachers. The church had the best thinkers. I mean, the world was coming to the church to be influenced and to be entertained and to be directed. But you know what's happened now is it's turned the other way. See, the thing about salt and light that makes them powerful is that they're distinct. They stand out, right? Salt flavors the food. You can taste it. It stands out. It gives it a pop. Light, when it floods into a dark place, it stands out. It gives light where there once was only darkness. You know what the problem is so often we've decided that we want to be just like the world. We want to fit in. You know, we're looking to the world to tell us how to dress and what to listen to and where to go and what's cool and how to define what works in culture. And we're so busy trying to fit in that we can't flavor the world. We can't be an influence in our culture because we're trying so hard to blend in. But salt doesn't blend in, right? Salt stands out. Light stands out. And so I want to ask you, are you ready to stand out? Are you ready to be an influence? I mean, that's what Jesus has called us to. And Jesus uses ordinary people all the time to do extraordinary things. You see, I'm convinced that God is not looking for ability. He's looking for availability. I want you to think about that. So many times we think, you know what? God can't use me because I'm not talented enough. I'm not gifted enough. I don't have this or that. I don't measure up to whatever standard. No, that's not what God's looking for. God's looking for someone who's available to say, you know what, God, my life might not be the brightest. I may not be the most athletic. I may not be a movie star. I may not have lots of Instagram followers, but you know what? You can use me, whatever it is. You can use me any way you want. My light's here. I'm going to shine bright any way that you'll use me. That's availability. See, God's not concerned with your ability. He's looking for your availability. So the question is, are you available? Are you willing to let God work in and through you to use you? So over this series, the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about what does it mean as we enter a brand new decade, as we start the year 2020. What does it look like for us to influence the culture and the world around us? And as we close the message this morning, I want to give you 3 quick ways that you can grow in your influence. How to grow in your influence. The first one is this. I want you to jot these down. Influence is being authentic. Influence is being authentic. Now, why do I say that? I mean, it's interesting because I look at some of the influencers online and you know, some of them, they make this big deal about how, I'm posting photos that haven't been touched up by Photoshop. I'm real. You're getting the real me. You're getting exactly who I am. I mean, there's this value, right, where our culture has on things that are real, things that are authentic, things that are true. You know what? I'm convinced our culture is so good at smelling out fake. Our culture can see right through it. Our culture can see right through it when we're trying to be something we're not, when we're trying to pretend, when we're all fake. And so here's the reality. If we're going to have influence in our culture, we have to be authentic. I love this quote that I found from the Wired Guide to Influencers online. It says, be it moody photos, cheeky video reviews, meandering blogs, or blurry soon-to-disappear stories, the value of the content in question is derived from the perceived authority and, most importantly, authenticity of its creator. Do you hear what they're saying? they're saying if your content isn't real, if it's not legit, then don't put it out there. That what gives influencers their power is their authenticity. So I want to challenge you today. Some of us are trying hard to be someone else. We're trying to fill shoes that God never intended us to fill. We're trying to be that person that we look up to or something instead of being who we are. You know what? God created you to be uniquely you. God gave you a voice that no one else has. God created you to make an impact in this culture that no one else can bring, no one else can do and say the way that you can do it. God made you uniquely you, so don't pretend to be someone else. That's fake. The world will see it a mile away. You know what our world and our culture are hungry for? Hungry for something that's real. Don't feed me fake. Don't feed me plastic. Don't feed me hype, right? Give me something that's true. Give me something that's real. And I want you to know this morning, we as followers of Jesus, we have something real. Something the world is hungering for. You see, when God comes in and takes over your life, you have this new joy. You have this hope. You have this peace. You have things that the world can't even begin to understand. The things that the world is hungry for. Things that are way beyond the power of a few more likes on my Instagram page. Things that are life-changing. And when the world gets a taste of those things, let me tell you something, they want more. That's what our world is searching for. They're looking for something real, right? So as followers of Jesus, let's not try to pretend to be something we're not. Let's be real. Let's be authentic. Let's be who God has made us to be. Yes, we can grow and improve and set goals, and I'm all for that, but we need to be all that God wants us to be, not who someone else is called to be. Not living out someone else's vision or plan, but living out who God has created us to be. The second thing is this. Influence is being intentional. It's being intentional. You know how easy it is to go through life and just kind of drift, right? Just kind of float. Just kind of do your thing. You've got your head down, you're focused on the next class you got to go to, the next assignment, the next meeting, the next phone call, the next message on your phone. So often in our culture, we're living our lives like this, looking down at a phone 24/7 and missing the world around us. We're not being intentional. I want you to think about how easy it is in your neighborhood, right? When you roll in after a long day of school, work, whatever, and you're coming into your driveway, and you click the button and you pull into your garage, and then you close the door behind you so you can go in and Netflix and chill, right? That's it. That's all you want. You just want to relax and chill. But if you were being intentional, right, it would take some time. It would take some purpose. But you'd have to go out and maybe say hi to your neighbor who's outside watering their plants. Maybe you want to check on your neighbor whose wife just had surgery last week. Maybe you want to ask them how their holidays were. Maybe you just want to be intentional to connect and build a relationship with them. But going through life with intentionality. It's so easy, right, to just miss everything that's going on around us. It's so easy, right? Just think about this. When you go in your coffee shop in the morning and you're ordering your morning coffee, it's so easy to just be like, oh man, just give me my coffee. I need to get on to work. I got this. I got class. I'm on my way. I got to do stuff. It takes 30 seconds to be kind to someone. It takes seconds to say, you know what, this person who's taking my order matters. They're a real human being. You could show them kindness. You could smile at them. You could look them in the eye. You could communicate to them that they matter, right? You could learn their name. You could share with them. And you know what happens is, it doesn't happen in 30 seconds, but over time, as you go there and you make those small, little intentional investments, you know what happens? Relationships happen. You know what happens out of that intentionality? God can use that. God can make you a person of influence. Man, it's so easy, young people, to just go sit in your class at school and be like, okay, I just got to survive another class. Just got to get some notes down. Just got to figure out what's on the test. I don't really care. I just got to get this done. And it's so easy to miss the fact that God's put 5 people sitting all around you that don't know Jesus. 5 people all around you that need hope, that need peace in their life. And man, could you be intentional? I mean, could you just go through life for a minute and stop? Like, we got to stop thinking about ourselves so much and shift our focus, right? To be intentional. It takes intentionality. You know, one of the things we talk about a lot at Mission Church is that everyone has a circle. It's the people you do life with, right? It's your neighbors, your coworkers, your family, it's your friends. It's the people on your basketball team, your cheerleading squad. It's the barista who does your coffee. It's whatever. It's the people that you interact with in life. And God has put you in your circle so that you can have an influence. You know the mistake we make so often when we talk about influence? We say, oh, I'm going to change the world. Right? That's how we think about it. Like, oh, I'm going to be the next president, or I'm going to be this, or I'm going to be that. Like, we think about, I want to change the world. Let me challenge you about something this morning. Don't try to change the world. Try to impact the person right next to you. Try to impact the person who lives next door to you. Try to impact the person who sits next to you in class every week. Try to impact the person who makes your coffee in the mornings. Try to impact one person. Try to be the person that can slow down enough to be kind, to be intentional, to show love, and be purposeful and intentional. Right? That's what it means to change the world. That's how you start to change the world, is one little thing at a time. One person at a time. So influence is being authentic. Influence is being intentional. And the last one is this: influence is being present. It's being present. Yeah, I want to say something, to moms and dads for a minute. I think parenting is the hardest job that I've ever had. It's tough. I mean, there's challenges, there's questions, there's times when I have no answers, and I'm like, there's no manual, there's no one to tell me what to do, and I'm trying to figure this out. And my kids will tell you, I'm far from perfect. I'm trying to learn how to do this thing. I'm trying to be the best dad I know how to be, but it's tough. It's hard sometimes. And there's times where you think, man, if I could just take my kids on that vacation, then maybe they would like me, or maybe we'd have a relationship, or maybe this would be good, or man, if I could just get my kids an ultimate Christmas gift, or if I could just do this for my kids. But you know what your kids need the most? They need you to be present with them. They need you to be in their life. And if there's one thing that I want my kids to be able to say, right? It's like they may look back and say, you know what, my dad screwed up a lot, and I do. And they might say, you know what, my dad wasn't perfect, and my dad didn't always make decisions that I agreed with, and sometimes he had rules that I thought were too harsh or whatever, but you know what, I knew my dad cared about me because he was there. And I'll tell you, I don't always have the words to say to my kids. I tell a lot of corny dad jokes, at dinner table, and I sing a lot of really crazy songs from the 80s and stuff, and my kids roll their eyes at me all the time and think I'm weird, and but here's the thing. I want my kids to say my dad was present in my life. I knew my dad cared. And here's the thing. Are we present for people around us? It kind of goes hand in hand with being intentional, right? So often we're so busy with our stuff that we miss the fact that someone right next to us is hurting, and we don't even hear their cry for help. We don't even have a chance to be loving and kind to them. Because we're so absorbed in our phone, we're so absorbed in our schedule, we're so absorbed in our to-do list or whatever, and we miss that. We miss those moments. We're not present. And maybe you have a friend who's hurting, going through something really hard, and you feel like, I don't know what to say to them. I don't know what to do. You know what they probably just need is someone to be there. Maybe someone to cry with them. Maybe someone to hold them. Maybe someone just to be there, just to say, you know what, I don't have the answers for you, but I'm here. I'm going to walk this journey with you. I'm going to be present even in the mess, right? That's what I think our world is hungry for. See, the reality is we live in a dark world. If you turn on the news, if you go online, you see pain and heartache and sorrow and brokenness of our world all around. And yet, God has called us in the midst of darkness. In the midst of a world where we can't see. In the midst of a world where people are literally searching for hope, God's called us to be the light. Right, this morning I wanted to do just a little illustration, so I'm going to ask the guys in the back to bring down the house lights for me, to turn off the lights in the room. See, in a dark place, light has a way of penetrating the darkness, doesn't it? I mean, in a dark room, you can see a light from a long way away. The light pushes away darkness and brings hope. And God has called us, right, to be the light of the world, to bring influence, to bring our light to this world. And you know, so often we're like, oh, well, the pastor, he can tell people about Jesus. He can be the light of the world. Or, oh, the missionaries, they can be the light of the world. Or, oh, you know, like I have that friend, that one who's like really spiritual. I mean, they have devotions and stuff. They could do it. They could be the light of the world. I mean, I have that teacher or somebody like that I know, or like my mom who's really spiritual. They could be the light of the world. And yet God's called each one of us to be the light in a dark place. You know, I wonder just what would happen if some of us, instead of sitting back and making excuses for why we're not willing to use our influence, why we're not willing to lean into who God's made us to be in this world, if we would start to say, you know what, God, my light might not be the brightest, but I'm willing to let it shine. And so are you ready for this? This is a little audience participation moment right now, okay? I want you to take out your phones, and I want you to turn on your light. All right, turn it. Yeah, I want you to see what happens when it's not just one light, when it's not just 2 lights or 3 lights or 4 lights or 5, but it's dozens of lights. And in a darkness, suddenly all the lights together shining are pointing the way. And everyone just hold up your lights and see the difference that it makes in the room. See all these lights and see the, I mean, this is beautiful, isn't it? I mean, this is what God is calling us to do in our culture, in our world, in the darkness. To say, you know what, I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I don't have it all together. I don't have hundreds of followers on Instagram or anything, but I could be a light. It might be small, but in a dark place, it's going to make an impact. And when my light joins together with your light, and your light joins together with my light, and then we get together and we start shining our lights together, something really amazing is going to happen, and God's going to do change. God's going to do big things in our culture, in our world. You can put your lights down. You know, something really amazing happens to you and I. We enter into a relationship with God. See, He brings the Holy Spirit into our hearts and our lives. And suddenly we have this light to shine out to the world. This light that brings hope, meaning, and peace. This light that points the way to people. And maybe this morning as we're talking about lights and we're talking about how God's created you to shine and how God wants to come into your life and shine through you. I mean, maybe you're sitting there thinking, you know what, I don't know that I've experienced that. I don't know that I've experienced a relationship with Jesus and the hope and the peace and the joy that you're talking about. This morning, I want to invite you. I want to invite you into a relationship with a God who loves you so much. I mean, the message of Christianity, right, is not that we have to try harder to be good, to do more stuff. The message of Christianity is not about religion. It's about a relationship with a God who loves us. You see, all of us are broken and messed up people. We all fall short of God's perfect standard. And because of that, God loved us so much that He sent Jesus to this earth. Jesus came to this earth and He died on the cross. And He shed His very own blood so that you and I could have forgiveness of our sins, so that we could walk in peace and life and joy for all eternity. And so this morning, that's what's real that the world is missing, that they're looking for. That's what's lasting. I mean, in a world full of temporary stuff, in a world full of plastic, in a world full of hype, I mean, the world is looking for something real. And this morning, if that's you, I want to encourage you. I want to invite you into a relationship that will change your life forever. It's a relationship with Jesus. I want you to know He loves you so much. And right now, even in your brokenness, even no matter what your past is, no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, Jesus loves you unconditionally. And He wants to have a personal relationship with you. And right now, where you are, you can cry out to Him and say, God, I need you in my life. I want to be different. I want to be changed. I want to have the hope of eternal life. I want to have the peace that comes from knowing that my sins are forgiven and that I don't stand guilty before God. I want to have the joy in life that is contagious and infectious everywhere I go. I want you to come into my heart and life and change me from the inside out. And that's what he wants to do